What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Poker Swag CEO, coming at you with another YouTube video for my channel. This week it's going to be for week 14 on the Draftkings tournament circuit. This is going to be an interesting week. They're doing something a little different, basically combining the Millionaire Maker tournaments with the usual weekly tournament I've been posting on my YouTube channel. For the $100,000 top prize. Now they're doing a $2.5 million tournament with the top prize being $1 million, second place being $100,000 with over 900,000 entries for this tournament. So going to be real competitive, going to be a long weekend for some people. But at the end of the day, and this is something I've said in previous videos, when it comes to fantasy points per game, you really need to strive to get, 230, 240 to really be competitive. If you have a week like we did last week where there were a couple games where it was complete blowouts and players were eclipsing 40 plus points by themselves, then okay, you're talking 270, right under 300 ranges for fantasy points, which is absurd. But it can happen. It can happen. It's happened a couple of times this season. Week 14, I mean, there's a lot of interesting matchups, and it's just really about production. So we're all going to have to wait and see how that turns out. But for the most part, it starts with your lineup. It starts with having a competitive attitude and really putting together a team that is in a position to compete. The rest of it is just how the pigskin lies. Who gets the luck of the draw. The bounce in their direction type of thing. So what I'm going to do is kind of jump right into it. I kind of have an idea of how I'm going to build this team, and unlike other weeks, I'm going to take a very straightforward and strong lineup approach. For example, I'm definitely going to go stronger on wide receivers this week and probably take a back seat to a tight end, which is something I really haven't done in previous weeks. So I'm going to switch over to my Draftkings page so we can get my lineup going, and I can show you guys what the tournament looks like. Okay, so here we are on my Draftkings page, Poker Swag CEO. I'm going to have numerous lineups in the works, but this is the one I'm going to do for the purpose of this video. The tournament is going to be right here. The Millionaire Maker special that they're doing, $2.5 million prize pool, $1 million for the top prize for week 14. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Okay, so the approach that I'm taking is just kind of just driven off of teams that have led the charge last couple of weeks, may not be in a wild card, but definitely in contention. So they're playing to win. They're not sitting in the driver's seat. They're not coasting. They're not playing for next year. They're still in contention this year to make a run for the postseason, and they're playing their asses off. So that's what I'm going with this week. So I'm going to put in the driver's seat a team that has a proven record of, having a successful regular season, having a phenomenal postseason, and been to the big show. That team is going to be Seattle Seahawks. Having my quarterback being Russell Wilson. Got to pair him with some other guys that have definitely next man up, picked up the slack, didn't skip a beat, and is the main reason why this team is still on a roll. And that's going to be complementing Russell Wilson with their running back, who did replace Mr. Skittles himself, Marshawn Lynch. I'm going to go with Thomas Rawls. He's been a great replacement for Lynch with his injury. The man is definitely someone that is somewhat reliable. In the matchup they have this week with Baltimore, it's looking pretty good. Baltimore has been known to have a pretty stiff run defense, but because Russell Wilson has legs, because he's showing us that he could throw the ball downfield, they can't plan to stop the run. They need to plan for all phases of the game. I mean, you got Lockett running back punt returns and kickoff returns. You got Rawls getting his 100-plus yards a game. You got Russell Wilson. He's as evasive as ever and getting yardage on the ground with his legs. And he can do it with his arm. And he can do it with this man over here, Doug Bowen, and I'm going to tell you, from a fantasy perspective, this is one of the best value picks in all of fantasy football. Doug Bowen. Now, that's mainly because we're in week 14. I would say 10 out of 14 weeks, the guy was a no-show. They had issues at tight end that took a lot of, I would say, attention from the pass game, plus issues with the run game, but that's all done with. Lynch is on the bench. He's injured. Graham, he's on the bench. He's injured. There's no more distraction. Now they're winning. They don't have to worry about having a run offense because Rawls is doing his job. And now they can just focus on the pass. And guess what? The man's throwing the ball all over the place, and it looks really good, I must say. So that was definitely going to save me some room down the line for my salary cap. I'm going to continue on with the wide receivers, and I'm going to go right up the list, and I'm going to go heavy on quality wide receivers. I will take a back seat for my tight end. That's the strategy I'm going with, because these wide receivers, if you can get them at the right peak time, I mean, they will set your lineup apart. So, there are a lot of choices here. I got a lot of salary cap. I would say Odell Beckham Jr. He's a good pick, especially going against Miami. Primetime game like Monday Night Football this week. It's looking pretty good that he's going to show out. However, right below him is Mr. Antonio Brown. Got to go with that guy. Yes, they have a pretty tight adversary this week with Cincinnati. They did lose to Cincinnati when Big Ben came back off of that injury. But this is a different team now. This is not the same Pittsburgh Steelers we saw that had some identity crisis and going through devastating injuries with the running back they had, Le'Veon Bell. They reestablished themselves as a run defense team and a pass first team. So, I mean, with Ben Roethlisberger, he's definitely one of the few quarterbacks out there, and this is spoiler alert, one of the few quarterbacks out there that can actually check down to number 3 and number 4. So all those guys are pretty dangerous. But I'm definitely going to go with the number 1 receiver in Pittsburgh with Ben, and that's going to be Mr. Antonio Brown. I will compliment him with some other big guns that are not necessarily in Pittsburgh. Now, what some people could do is they can double down. Brown and Martavis Bryant. It's worked before. Will it work every time? No. But if you were lucky enough to pick both of those in the same lineup in a week where they had a great game, you capitalized really well. I'm not doing that this week. There are entirely too many other wide receivers out there that are on the same page with their quarterbacks, and they're all competing for a postseason bid in that wild card, and they're just playing balls to the wall. One of these teams I would say is going to be Buffalo Bills with Tyrod Taylor and Mr. Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins has been balling out hard last couple weeks, and with the matchup like they have coming up with Philadelphia, there's no reason in the world why Sammy Watkins couldn't have more than 2 touchdowns or more. Like, he needs to go air it out. he said something after last week's game against New Jersey after coming. Did they play New Jersey? No. Who did they play last week? It wasn't Jersey, because Jersey beat New York. Last week, Houston. That's right. It was him. It was Watkins versus Hopkins. Okay. So last week, post game, Sam Watkins in an interview said, and I quote, "I told Tyrod, throw the ball as long as you can and as hard as you can, and I will go get it." I love it. I love it. I'll take that any day. If that's the attitude of your wide receiver, your number one wide receiver, then that's as long as they maintain that certain level of intensity, I will roll with that to the wheels fall off. So definitely gonna do Sammy Watkins. Also another wide receiver that is completely like going full throttle. It appears that him and his quarterback are on the same page, is Mr. Allen Robinson. Now, last week he was definitely the man, to watch for. He definitely put on a clinic against Tennessee the second time around, but they still lost, which is okay. But from a fantasy perspective, I mean, the man had 43 points. 46 fantasy points. What in the hell? Now, is he going to get 43 this week? I doubt it, because now the other half of that wide receiver core is coming back from an injury, okay, with Allen Hurns. So I don't think he'll get as many looks, but it doesn't mean he can't put up as many points, because he's definitely a deep threat on that team, and he's playing like his career depends on it. So again, that type of intensity and ferocity when it comes to the receiver position, like I'm the best in the world, throw me the ball and I will go get it, I will ride with that. So I got about 10-4 left. Got one running back, a tight end, and a defense. Defense can make or break your lineup any day, all day. So I want to try to grab a defense that I think can shut down their opposition, okay, and actually get production. That means interceptions. That means sacks. That means a pick six if needed. These type of things is what I'm looking for in that defense. Broncos got it. Panthers got it. Seattle definitely has it, and so does the Chiefs. So those are my 4 top picks while I have the salary cap. But out of those 4, the Chiefs score against San Diego, and I think the Chargers right now are definitely on a downward spiral spin right now. And the matchup is pretty good with Seattle and Baltimore. But I'll tell you, when it comes to the undefeated Carolina Panthers, that is no fluke. These guys are on a mission. And they're going against a team that I don't particularly care much for the quarterback with Matt Ryan. I don't really like Matt Ryan. Never did since he left BC. Never liked him. So they got Atlanta at Carolina. I'm going to go with that. I think Carolina will put on a clinic against Atlanta if they can shut down Julio Jones. Freeman is Freeman. I mean, there's, running back like that has so many weapons, as far as running the ball and catching the ball in the flats, and that's okay. But I need them to sack Matt Ryan. I need them to pick off Matt Ryan, and I need them preferably to get a pick six on more than one occasion against Matt Ryan. So that's really who I think is going to make that defense produce, is the quarterback. I ain't worried about the running back. You don't get points for negative yardage on a running back as far as the defense is concerned. You get points on sacking, on the damage you inflict on a quarterback. Okay, so that's what I'm sticking with. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Tight end, again, I'm going to go low totem pole in the tight end. I'm going to try to max out my running back, which the way it's looking with only 7,000 left, the max I'll probably be able to spend on a running back is probably a little less than 5. Yeah, maybe about 45 or so. So let's see who's available. Let's see who's available in that price range. We got Ivory. No, that's not going to work out too good because that will only leave me 7. Let's see, we got Ivory, Lamar. Nope, that's not going to work. Let's go down this list. We got Yeldon. That's a possibility. May not be a possibility. Oh, I know. Check this out. This is one of those commercialized sleeper pick kind of guys that that they just kind of that they pretty much talk about on TV. That is that sleeper pick, that guy that you got to have faith in to produce, and you know who else is going to have the same faith and is going to get you over. I think that player this week, James White. Okay, James White has been utilized in the best way so far as coming off the bench, you know, as number 3 tailback. Okay, Blunt is just not playing good. Already Dion Lewis injured out, he's on IR, but they're using James White in the same capacity that they use Dion Lewis. It's perfect. It worked perfectly. They lost, but it worked perfectly last week playing Philly. Now, obviously, Tom Brady had some issues, turnover issues, and special team issues. But look at what they did with this guy last week. He had absolutely shit for running the ball. But passing the ball, he was another wide receiver. He was basically a damn wide receiver and had more receiving yards than any other wide receiver on that team coming out the backfield. That game plan, and you can't game plan for that, because if you think, oh my God, next week they're gonna do it again, and then he comes up the A gap and runs and busts it for 30, then your whole defensive plan is shot. Are we gonna cover the flats or are we gonna cover the middle? You gotta pick one. And if New England sees you're covering the flats, use them as a regular running back, or hopefully Blunt can do it. If they're clogging the middle and blitzing, dump it to the flats. So New England's smart enough to figure that out. That's probably what they're going to do. So I'm rolling with James White. That allows me a pretty good amount to kind of get a decent tight end. And this tight end selection is purely on faith. Okay, sometimes that's what it calls for. If I had more picks, I may have to. It's like literally swap out one for another. Don't touch anything else in the lineup. It's just that critical for this type of lineup here. Couple of tight ends come to mind with this type of salary range. Tampa Bay, who started out good, but for the last 12 weeks, I would say he came back week 13. So the last 11 weeks were out with shoulder injury. That's Jenkins in Tampa Bay. Winston, he's on an upswing. They're trying to get over that and make it to the postseason. Also, you have IR, a lot of people injury, but one that's most noticeable is in Chicago, with Bennett being on IR as of last week, which makes Zach Miller number 1 option for Jay Cutler. Zach Miller hasn't been all that good this year. However, there was that one time, week 10 against St. Louis, where he just went the hell off. He just went off. I mean, the man was running like he was a regular wide receiver and not a tight end. Okay? So, with that being said, I don't necessarily want to go with Jenkins because I think his main issue is probably still that injury. He's probably not fully over it. He probably still is kind of a little timid, a little scared to kind of re-injure that shoulder. So I'm going to go with Zach Miller, who pretty much has been thrusted into this position to be that guy. Next man up. It's your number has been called. Fight or flight. What you gonna do? So I will go with that. I don't really have a fucking choice. I mean, my lineup, as you can see, pretty stiff with some playmakers. If you need to do that, you gotta make a sacrifice somewhere, and I would rather it be with my tight end than with my defense. I'm just saying. So this is my lineup for week 14 for this $2.5 million tournament on Draftkings. Top prize being $1 million. Okay. Russell Wilson, Thomas Rawls, James White, Doug Bowen, Mr. Antonio Brown, Mr. Sammy Watkins, Zach Miller, Mr. Allen Robinson, and the Panthers defense. How do you like that? So, I appreciate everyone who's kind of tuned in to see my picks for week 14. If you like my picks or have any comments, go ahead and leave a comment. I reply to all the comments I get. Go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel. It's week 14. Who knows what week 15, 16, and 17 is going to look like with these Draftkings tournaments. I'm pretty sure they're going to just keep cutting them down. So I'm going to continue to put out videos as long as there's something of substance to post as far as these tournaments. But it could be another $1 million next week, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So I will see you guys after Monday Night Football with the results of my pick. And I'm telling you right now, my goal is to come back, number one. So, till next time, peace, YouTube land. I'll holler at your boy.